Hey, my people, what's going on? This is Major TV. Let's talk. I really want to talk to you about some things that I really been having on my mind. And a lot of time, I analyze stuff from a psychological standpoint more than just looking at the facts or the truths of everything, right? And even though the facts and truth is what it is, but I feel like a lot of time disseminating and deciphering different things can be very challenging for the mental, right? Especially when you're less informed or not informed at all. And I'm very passionate about what I'm about to talk about because it affects me, you, and everybody. And as a black people, it really affects us because it's something we have to deal with, right? So I'm entitled this coping with self-hate and racism. And the reason why I entitled it that and why I want to talk about it is because a lot of time we talk about how we can't unify, how we can't work things out, how we gonna always hate each other, and largely from what happened with the slavery aspect of how we was tortured, murdered, treated in a very inhumane way, and was given the title among many, but we was given that N-word title, right? That happened over 200 some years ago, right? 20 years ago. We still use it right now today. So we let that one word that we try to justify to the ER off, but the A on the end of it still exists. Look at the mental magnitude of that, right? Let's just digress for a moment and think about that. That one word that been around for a very long time that emanated out of slavery. So imagine all the rest of the things that was handed down to us in a human way, and how we treat each other because we felt helpless overall. Even though we know they had slave revolts, they had real true generals and soldiers that was fighting back as slaves, right? The Nat Turners and them. We know about Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, we know about Frederick Douglass. We know about these people, right? But there was a lot of people that wasn't strong enough, didn't have that mental fortitude, and dealt with it in a less meaningful and I guess the best way they could deal with it. But to get to my point is the self-hate part. We deal with it a lot because a lot of times we compete with each other. We get mad at each other for any little thing. We get upset. We see another brother or sister on the rise, doing good, have everything together, but we find a reason to get mad with that person. Now look at the good of what that person doing and being inspired, trying to follow her walk, or trying to be inspired to do something to be successful. We find reason to find fault. We find reason to get mad at us while we know that the enemy got his foot in our throat. We know the enemy got a gun pointed at us. We know the enemy wants to lock us up, wants to keep us at the bottom. Anybody can come over here from another country and be on top of black people. They want us to believe the trickery, right? That other people come up here and rise and quickly, right? Or doing what it takes to stay ahead and stay afloat. But then they want to make it seem like it's something inherently wrong with us. Because it's systemically wise, they have it set up, whereas they're not trying to promote your employment, or they're not trying to employ you. That when they call it, how they attack the affirmative action and try to say, well, why should we give it to a black person because you're black, and you have a person over here with a higher education, which would be so-called claiming white or Asian or what have you, right? All these little games they play, right? And you have the Candace Owens of the world try to break down how Asians is very high in intelligence and blah, blah, a bunch of BS, right? Heard this woman say it out of her mouth. And they want us to believe there's something inherently wrong with us when we know systemically they haven't said, oh, we can't progress. That we didn't have, we have had issues in employment, banking, medical health, education, being taught our history incorrectly or the way they want to teach us. There's a lot of things that they intentionally not want to know. We have to find out through a movie or doing some real research and find out how great we were, how we contribute to civilization, how we built this country. You know? But the self-hate is because we've been taught to think that we are inferior. We've been taught to think that we're less than everybody else. It's not a joke when the media, as well as Hollywood, will flash something over the screen, you know? And this at one time, right, where only time you see a black person on television was in sports or being charged with a crime, right? You hardly would ever see whites flash over a news channel like that, right? Unless they did something real, real bad. But it'd be the littlest thing that put us on the news. You hardly ever seen influential black people. It was due to a lot of pushback that Hollywood had received, right? And like with the predatory lending, we wasn't familiar with that, or the redlining, what they was doing with the real estate market, with charging blacks higher in everything, interest rates, fees and whatnot, and monthly notes and what have you versus whites. All this had to be unearthed. I always say, white people, when people think, even our people, black people think that a lot of things that happen for us, white people just woke up one day and said, here, we're going to look out for y'all. No, that's not true. We had to fight for it. When I say fight, I mean protest. I mean, sometimes pick up the gun because some black people wasn't taking the nonsense, right? I mean, really, like, giving some major pushback. You know, you feel me? You had people who had to literally legally challenge certain things. And, I mean, history reflects it all. You know what I'm saying? And it was things that had to be brought about the government, which either was involved or complicit to a lot of wrong and bad things. Like a lot of these industrial plants that's in these rural areas of these countries and different parts of the rural areas of the country, a lot of racist stuff going on. And promotions. In predominantly black areas where you're going to have whites in all the high positions. But when it's exposed about all this, then these big industrial plants start saying something. Because, you know, a lot of times they put all these different industrial plants and factories all around the country, right? And the big people, you know, they be trying to say what they're doing, that, you know, it's about diversity and all this, that, and other, and they talk about the equality, all this good stuff for the media. until you expose all the racist stuff they have been doing, black people. Then they come out, oh, we have this in place, whereas there can't be no discrimination and racism and what have you. But it was. You didn't say nothing until you was exposed. Likewise, the government. Government didn't say a lot of stuff until it was exposed about the crack cocaine situation and they put in the black community. It's a lot of things that happen to us, and then wonder why people don't trust the vaccines. When we knew about the historical injustice they did to and Tuskegee experiment in Alabama with the syphilis, 1920s, 1970s. How they inject us with the syphilis and then turn around, experiment on trying to find some kind of way of curing the disease, but using us as guinea pig. But they wonder why black people question it. I talked to my auntie yesterday. She's in California. She's a registered nurse, and she was like, she not taking it. She don't trust it, and she worked in the hospital for years. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy that people in that field is even worried about science, because science never been good to us at all. But it's because of us exposing what happened with the ski experiment. It's because we exposed having the crack cocaine and what have you, right? That now black people's voices are being heard to a certain extent. That now you're starting to see how Hollywood starting to act a little all right with black people, right? You start now to see black politicians starting to realize black people get tired of voting for y'all. Y'all not speaking up and doing what y'all supposed to do. And I'm talking about just little progress, but it's been progress. But I also blame the black community not coming together, right? Like we should. But the self-hate thing and going back to the slavery connection of the psychological part of it and why we so messed up is due to that, right? And then coupled with the racism, right? We know about Jim Crow, post Jim Crow, new Jim Crow, you know, how from day one when they released this January 31st, what, 1865, when they freed slaves, I believe, they stand to be corrected, how they found ways to still lock us up. You watch the documentary, which I mentioned in 13 by Ava DuVernay, that sister really exposed a lot of things, right? And fast forward to now, because I'm skipping over all the ugly and nasty of racism and the forming of the black mind of the black Negro and this so-called clone that they was trying to make us out of. A lot of us are still clones in my eyes, right? Because of how we deal with each other versus how we deal with them, the respect and blah, blah, right? How we allow them and other ethnic groups come here to take over our community, and they get on that side of history with believing that whites are right and the superior versus blacks, who they treat us almost similar. And I'm not saying all ethnic groups, I'm not saying all whites, you know what I'm saying? I'm just calling what it is, you know, from my experience personally. And when we look back and we think about all this, right, and the psychological part of knowing that you're working on, everywhere you work, right, I'm being real with you, you're working for a white person, right, another ethnic group that probably have the same value system as a white person. Even though they may still like have some kind of cultural connection, but in America, a lot of them really is complicit to a lot of stuff that goes on. You don't see them too much out there in the fight with us, right? You see a sprinkle of them. And the reality of everything is the fact that we have to deal with working for other people. We have to deal with conforming to certain things. We have to deal with being targeted by police. We have to deal with the possibility of being falsely harassed, embarrassed, beaten, or possibly killed. We have to watch what we say, because I don't care what people be talking and all of that. None of that. A lot of us know we have to be mindful, because we will lose a job. We lose our job. We can become incarcerated. We can get solid. We can get killed. Let's be real about it. Yeah, we have a lot of people out here talking about racism and calling whites out, and I applaud a lot of them for that. But a lot of them are also counterproductive because they're not supporting other black people that's doing the same. They're taking higher stuff than what they are. And I believe that's because because they feel like their shine being taken, right? Being taken. So, but to get to my point is, I'm a grown man, right? And I'm by far I'm not scary. I'm not a coward, but I know a world I'm in. Thanks to Neely Fuller Jr., he speaks about not being provoked. He speaks about how when police come to confrontation when it's white and black, they're not trying to come quell anything. They're a race soldier. They're coming to silence you and deal with you, because they understand what the power structure is all about and how we are more or less, how he said, prisoners, in the prison. So we have to watch what we say and watch what we do. And when Grandmaster Jay hit the scene, he shook the very foundation of this country. And you see what they did him. And by the way, free on Grandmaster Jay. All love to that brother, in fact. But I'm just saying, like, just imagine you're a grown person, you gotta watch what you say, watch what you do. You gotta look over your shoulder. You have to be worried about getting pulled over or going somewhere where you got white people and you don't know they might start shooting. You don't know if they try to provoke you or what have you. Because since Trump and the office, they are so bold, right? They are so like, whatever, F you, you're in or what have you. And I'm not saying they always verbalize the N-word, but the way they talk to you, it's like they want to call you N-word when you get into it with them, right? So we're dealing with self-hate, coping with self-hate, and we're dealing with racism, right? Knowing there's a line drawn in the sand. And crossing that line can cause your life. Whether you're going to be put in prison, whether you get killed, exile, silence, it can really ruin you, right? We have to cope with that. And no person should feel confined like they're in prison when they haven't did no crime. We already have a lot of brothers and sisters who are falsely being arrested, who have exaggerated crimes and exaggerated sentences, have to deal with this, right? Because they actually in a box. And if you've been in that box, that's different level-ish. But you're in this world, right? You're in this country, and you have to walk a thin line. Psychologically, a lot of our black kids that's not mature, a lot of our black people that's not mature, they be ready to take off and beat the pee out of a white person or other ethnic group that try to disrespect them in a racist way, right? Because they be hearing us, they be watching and saying, but they don't know how to deal with that. And some either black people, and they either what? Go to prison, right? And you still have to go before you get locked up, right? You still got to go for the white man, right? Or the black man, because a lot of these black people that's sitting on these judgments got that white mentality. Because when you're in the system And that's one thing I've been learning. When you're in the system, it's hard to fight within the system. Even though people are doing it, it's hard. I want to believe the average black person, even Barack, even though he criticized for not doing much or nothing for black people, I really have to admit that I can imagine how hard it is, because you're dealing with racism all around. You're dealing with Confederate statues and what have you. You're dealing with you're dealing with presidents that had slaves like George Washington and what have you. So, I mean, it's hard to say that when you're in office, it's easy to really kind of shake and move things. And don't get me wrong, that's their job. And it's our job to make sure they do that. But it's hard. We have been a powerless people for so long, right? Whereas we fought with these white people, and they came to and destroyed in our neighborhoods. And I'm not just talking about talks, I'm talking about around this country. Historically, it's documented, right? You're seeing what they did with the COINTELPRO and Black Messiah, with MLK, Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, the Nation's Line, Black Liberation. We seen what this government would do. So let's not be naive to all this. But I'm getting into the mental me. I'm getting the mental. How you cope with self-hate and racism. Because we have a lot of self-hate against each other. We deal with racism every day. Whether it's complicit, whether it's covertly. I mean, it's a reality. Because a lot of systemic racism we deal with is invisible. What you mean, Major? It's something that you really can't see. White people is on code. The police is on code, right? And you do have black people in the police department that's fighting with it and trying to do the right thing and not trying to mess over their people. But it's extremely hard when you got your counterparts that's white, that's on your team, and the team is police officers, race soldiers, and targeting black communities. I just released a video commending Police Chief Eric Hawkins at the New York Police Department that suspended and looking at firing an officer that was talking about black people call more police more than white cops. Like, that really matter, right? We're taxpayers and we're doing our part. But at the same time, they have issues of us calling them out about the police violence. They have issues with us complaining about the systemic racism, how they target us. Pull us over illegally, search our vehicle illegally. When we say something, they want to harsh us up, give us chunk of charges, handcuff us and put us in the car. And we resist, we breaking the law. Now they're going to go to extreme to want tasers, beating us, and possibly killing us. Because for one, you're stopping me. You're messing with me for all the wrong reasons. And then you can't find nothing. And I'm addressing my constitutional rights, saying, well, hey, man, you have no right to pull me over. What's your reason for pulling me over? No, you can't search my vehicle. Why are you messing with me, right? And they get upset because you're saying your constitutional right, freedom of speech, express yourself, right? And you're exercising the right of your Fourth Amendment from unreasonable searches, unreasonable arrests, searches, and seizures, and what have you. And he know you know your rights, right? Because you confront him and tell him, no, you know your rights. A police officer just can't pull you over and just mess with you. Right? And we have with Sandra Bland, a good example of that. A traffic stop dealing with one thing that led to blocking his sister. That's mental pressure. They treat us like we're on parole out here. They treat us like we're doing time for the government. But we supposed to be. And what I mean doing time for the government is like when they release you, no bam, you're on parole. You know what I'm saying? Probation or whatever the case might be. They don't respect our constitutional rights. And they see us as being away from my observation. And I feel like coping with this mentally is tough. Well, Major, how you deal with it? I think through information and insight, as well as comprehensive therapy, right? First, let's cover the knowing, the knowledge, and the insight. You have to read and understand the situation you're in as a black people in this country. You have to get the insight, you have to get the knowledge, right? And then you have to cope with the realistic aspect of understanding that the fight you're dealing with is not a fight that will be overcome overnight, a year or two. The problem of the black community is the lack of communication, the lack of truly unifying, the lack of truly being informed, the lack of really having solid leadership that can work with other leadership, that can cross aisles and really come up with a comprehensive way of solving some of the basic issues in our community. A lot of times you hear black people say, especially influential black people and pro-black people, about doing for self, building a nation. In theory, that's what we should be doing. In words, it sounds great. But when they get down to really having a blueprint, I mean, we can talk about banks, hospitals, education, especially dealing with our true culture, you know. Our true spirituality. Understanding what true political power is, what true economical power is. Understanding socially as a people, that we have built everything and inspired everything. To really understand the essence of having a hospital, right? The essence of doing our own medical research. Essence of truly encouraging black businesses. Actually having black people donating some kind of fundraiser. Excuse me. Some fundraiser to support young black entrepreneurs that need funding. And we can create the fund within a black bank to support black banks, to do business with black banks and black businesses, to go in our neighborhoods and deal with the violence. Listen, to go in our neighborhood and deal with the violence, to deal with the drugs, to deal with a dying black neighborhood, historical black neighborhood that's infested with crime, violence, so on. To truly do this, that requires each one of our leaders having that it factor, putting aside differences, agree that we can disagree sometimes, but ultimately, it's not about you, not about me, it's about the people. When we able to deal with that, things will be so much better. But we are not there yet. but to become informed again and having insight and understanding what's going on, and that this is a fight. This is not just a battle, it's a war. War for true freedom, true justice, true equality, true opportunities. To be given that fair shake. And I think with more knowledge and insight, it'll help you cope with it. It'll help you deal with it. And also, we have to definitely consider therapy, comprehensive therapy. There's nothing wrong with talking to somebody, preferably somebody who's black. Reason being because I don't believe a white person or no one that's not black can truly understand the black experience in America and what we go through dealing with the self-hate in the community and the racism. And I feel like a lot of time it's tough for black people to really talk to somebody, especially black men. I recently started talking to a therapist, I think about 3 months ago. It has been so relieving, right? Because I ain't gonna lie, my first session, I just laid it all out how I was feeling, right? About racism, the self-hate in the community. A lot of things, right? Not to bring up any details, right? A lot of details. But to make a long story short, we have to talk about it. I read a book dealing with internalized oppression, and after the book, the critic was saying that in order to deal with a problem, right, you got to either confront that person and take your issue up with them and bring some kind of closure or whatever that you have to do, right? Or talk with somebody. Because if not, you wind up taking that problem out on yourself and the people you love that's around you, family and friends. And I think that happened in the black community. We are not able to confront white people like we want of this country and really just vent without some kind of serious consequence. And a lot of us have actually spoke openly and have expressed our disdain, dislike, and ugly truth about what white people did to us, right? And how we have not got any reparation, help, or any kind of satisfaction in spite of a long history of systemic racism and discrimination. And this country is not willing to meet us even halfway on it, right? They're ready to lip services and give us meager or no help at all. Very little meager help or no help at all, right? And I feel, talking about it with a black person that you feel comfortable with after, you can interview them and talk to whomever, that you feel like can really relate to you. And you need to express and lay it out with you. Don't let it eat you away. Don't let it turn you into a monster, right? Where you go to hating white people that's racist and that hate you. Or you go disliking your people because of the ignorance sometimes we show towards each other, the disrespect, and the lack of love and care for your brother, man, and woman. You know what I'm saying? And family. It's deep, but we have to talk about it. Because if we don't, It's going to eat away at us. And when I decided to do this video coping with self-hate and racism, I really wanted to do the psychological part of understanding that this stuff weighs heavy on our brain. And even though we're able to kind of push it out of our head every blue moon, it comes right back front and center. Because we don't have to worry about ourselves, we have to worry about our kids, our loved ones, family, friends, and then other black people that may be going through something. Because just because we might be doing pretty okay, the next brother or sister may not be doing okay. So, we have to talk about it, So that's my take on coping with self-hate and racism. Knowledge and insight. Having therapy. Talk to somebody about it. Professional. I'm not talking about a family and friend. Because trust me, one thing I admire about going through my therapeutic sessions is the fact that you're talking, right? And you're expressing. And you don't have to really just deal with just the self-racism. We can deal with anything you're going through in your life now. So don't get it twisted. You want to use this therapeutic moment for any and everything. But one thing I love about it is that once you talk about all what you're going through, what you're feeling, and what have you. Because I want you to unearth a lot of things. Because we have a lot of deep-rooted issues inside of us, right? We have to come out with it. But once you do that, what I love is they challenge you and they ask you questions. I'm dropping jewels, right? They ask you questions, right? Because the answer's still in you, You just laying it all out there, right? And then the therapist pieced together. And I won't lie to you. When I'm being challenged or asked certain things, it put me on my toes, right? And they make me think. And what I'm saying is, you want to always think about the issues in your life. You want to think about things you're going through. And you want to have answers how to deal with it. Because they say the first problem of solving a problem, recognize you have a problem, right? And once you know you have a problem, then you got to figure out how to solve it. So I think therapy is a great thing, especially when black people can talk to other black people that know and understand your experience. And even if they haven't experienced your experience or grew up different, you're going to still be helping them help you, as well as you're going to be informing them like I'm informing my therapist. And I just want to let people know, and shout out to my therapist, Patrick Brown. Patrick Brown, salute, man. You're great help. I have a meeting coming up soon, right? And I just had to talk about coping with self-hate and racism, and I hope y'all receive something from it. Please leave a comment. I need that feedback. Share, like, subscribe, hit that notification button. I'm starting to drop more and more content. I feel like it's needed. I feel like it's therapy for me, just to talk to you all, beautiful black people. And I really want y'all to know that I care. And I always say that in my videos. I love black people, you know what I'm saying? I don't hate nobody, you know what I'm saying? But I love black people. And I just want to thank you for always tuning in. I want to thank you for subscribing. I want to thank you but just showing the support. I do it for myself, but especially I do it for you, because it is therapy for me, And y'all take care. Y'all stay blessed. Y'all be safe. And I'll be dropping something real soon again. Y'all take care. Love. Peace.